Hey guys, this is Healthy Life Designing. Today we have a guest returning to the show. She was here last year, right in the very beginning of our pandemic. Her name is Heather Dugan. She is an author, speaker, and a connection advocate, and she is also the founder of Cabernet Coaches. She's going to be joining us, and we're going to just talk about what things have been like in the dating world, relationships, and connections, and how you can move forward in a healthier way. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Dagger Law has been part of the Lancaster community for more than 110 years. This is where we live and work. You'll see us at festivals, sporting events, and all around town. We consider our clients as friends, and we walk alongside you through challenging times. Whether you're a growing business, a changing family, facing litigation, planning your future, or dealing with land issues, we're right here. We are local. We are trusted. We are experienced. Dagger Law.
Hey guys, we are back with the lovely Heather Dugan, and oh my gosh. So the last time we connected was literally the day that everything just went berserk. And it was Friday the 13th.
Yes.
And you came into the studio, and it was such a strange feeling because we were just right there on the cusp of not knowing what's next.
Right. It felt like there was this cloud hovering and we didn't know exactly what was in it yet. We just kind of had these suspicions. We had a lot of information coming, but the whole picture wasn't clear yet. We just knew that life had the potential to be tremendously different the next day or even that evening.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember it. And we recorded a bunch that day. And there was just, it was with everybody that came in and out of the studio. And it was scary, and it was a little bit of anxiety and unsure of what the future is going to be next week. And, but you're here and you're back a whole year later. And
yes, what a year it's been.
Oh my gosh. And so when you were on before, we talked about your books and relationships and dating and what it's like getting back into dating. But now things have switched in those areas quite a bit. But that's where you come in, because you've learned a ton of different things.
It has been kind of like a big social research project. It feels like this whole year for all of us, just seeing how we kind of respond and how we cope, how we approach things differently. Yes, I think a lot of people have learned a lot. A lot of people are still kind of struggling with the things that they don't want to look at, because this is just really, it's been a lot of churning, I think, within for a lot of people in terms of the relationships around them and the relationship with self, because you can't go through this without beginning to look at a few things a little closer. I think there's been more introspection. I mean, how is your family? I mean, you've had some changes as you've gone through this, I'm sure, as your children have adjusted, and just the dynamics of it all. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, trying to be the parents. And a lot of times I think it's the moms. The moms are taking the grunt of things because we're working from home. We're still trying to do our parental duties. But then a lot of us have chosen to do online schooling versus send the kids to school. Yeah. And that's a whole different load of stress. And trying to keep your connections and relationships while you're just trying to control the ship, it's a lot.
It takes juggling to a whole new level. And I think, I think a lot of us have realized, I mean, we knew before you can't do it all. I think more than ever, we've had to begin giving ourselves permission to lower the bar on a few things. I think I mentioned to you at some point that I have kind of been identifying my pandemic relief items as I've gone through this, just personally, ways that I have been coping with the changes, and just because emotionally, you know what to do to hold yourself stable. I mean, most, it's something that I've, worked, and you learn it. It's not something we're born with, but it still takes a lot of mental energy and emotional energy through this. So you just kind of have to set some things out ahead of time, I think, for yourself, so that you can manage the inevitable stresses that are going to be within a day or just a moment. There's a lot of mood swings is what I hear too with people. And indeed, that inability to make choices and to connect when we wish. It makes, it puts pressure on the times we do connect. And in Zoom meetings, this is my interaction for the day. And yet you struggle against this doesn't feel completely natural.
Yes.
And then trying to reach out via maybe text all the time. And that's a very different dynamic than an actual conversation. We've lost a lot of things, but I think we've also begin to value some important things in new ways, and that's a win in my book.
Absolutely. Well, and just the little things. When you and I were on the phone the other day, and we both agreed that it felt so much better to have an actual phone conversation. And you and I are a lot alike. We like interaction and human and real faces, real people.
Right. Yeah, I have suggested that several times as we've gone through this. The more, yes, face-to-face in person is the best for a real meaningful conversation connection, because you get all the social cues then. With a mask, you can't see if I'm joking with a little smirk on my face. Exactly. You can't tell. You miss so much, right? And when we are texting, we lose the tone. You can't tell if somebody is exaggerating something, or if they are angry, being, if that's their personality.
Yes.
So we start filling things in with all this information from the past and our history, and just our perspective on things. And we invariably lose the understanding along the way in terms of, getting complete understanding. But yes, if you can take it to a conversation, I think phone conversations allow for a more intimate conversation than Zoom. And I'm going to demonstrate right now. If I look at you right now, I'm looking at you, right? But I'm actually looking at this green light at the top of my screen.
Yes.
So there is this little disconnect. And as we respond to one another, there's a little bit of a delay. And there's the sense that, you're looking at me the whole time, whereas normally we might look around the room a little more, right?
Right.
So it's a different kind of interaction. I mean, it's perfectly pleasant. I always enjoy talking with you, but it is definitely different than when we're in a phone conversation or in person, for instance.
Absolutely. Well, and another thing that you and I talked about was the connections in dating, and that you started to find that people were becoming so desperate for connection that they were going to dating sites.
Yes. Well, you know what? That is a quick and easy fix for some. And that is a normal, a natural response and people do this regardless without a pandemic. Mm-hmm. But if you find yourself with sudden space in your life, the instinct usually is, I got to fill this fast. We don't usually say, I think I'll pause and reflect for a while and see what I learn out of this experience. That would be a very good idea. And eventually most come to that point. But the immediate instinct is, oh my gosh, I got to fill this up again because this doesn't feel comfortable to me. And that's normal. That again, it's like a biological thing once again. But when this pandemic hit, a lot of people were surprised to find, they might have had a suspicion, but that their social circle was not quite as strong as they thought. Because when we're busy and we have a lot going on at work, all of that interaction on a day-to-day basis within an office setting felt like enough, maybe not the highest quality always, but it was enough. And then all of a sudden that was gone. So in the evenings, I noticed a lot of people, this was a quick fix. And there was really, there's not in the beginning and several times through this, there's been times when it just doesn't even make sense to be doing that if you're really seeking a relationship, because the logistics, dating sites were connecting people in other countries, just for the sake of conversation, which that's a very unlikely match, but it was filling a different need through the means of that dating illusion. Oh,
right.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is,
go ahead.
So talking about the circle of friends again and things being restricted, can you go a little bit deeper with that?
Sure. And we've also had the divisions that come into play, say through politics or just simple lifestyle choices, have seemed a little larger than normal. I think a lot of the polarization we went through, there are definitely some things that have been in the mix, but we have this component of, a perspective being narrowed to a very small space, and the bandwidth is narrowed. Our patience level is about here, because we've been doing this a long time.
Yes.
So it's easier to notice differences than similarities between us. And if you're active on social media, and a lot of people, that's where they're seeing their friends. Some friends are making different choices in terms of the way they handle their life right now. We all have the freedom to do that, certainly, but there's there's a little bit of judgment, I think, going back and forth. And then some begin to feel perhaps left out, because they think they see and that happens normally as well from time to time. But it's important to really understand our own, to get solid in your perspective that this is a temporary thing. What you're seeing on social media is not accurate. It is a snapshot of something. And it's usually, Instagram filtered to the max, right?
Right.
But people have dialed down to essentials, I think, and we don't always have the energy to reach out to the people we even want to, because we've made it through another day. Yay, us.
Right.
But there isn't always a lot left over. So it's important to push yourself a little bit, because what is actually good for us is a little bit of effort. It's almost like exercise. When you're in the mode and you're used to it, it doesn't feel that bad. You enjoy the endorphins and it's like kind of fun. And it's the same, I think, with our social interaction. When you're in the midst of it, it feels very natural and normal, and you just enjoy it. And then when you're finished, you close it off and go back to your little space. But when we haven't been doing it regularly, it's a lot of almost mental ramp up time just to engage in a conversation and to initiate a conversation.
Yes.
And a lot of that is in some of the research I've read, certainly, and I'm seeing it borne out, very much so. But it's going to be important as we come out of this that we push ourselves. And I think it's important that you find ways right now to still push yourself, not overly, because we don't need more stress. But, I think I mentioned to you, I like wave at everybody at this point, because any interaction is good. If I'm out walking or at a grocery, just, saying, I see you, it's good for them and it's good for me. I have certain people, I try to make my way down a phone list. There are people that I know that are at the same comfort level with me in terms of precautions, and we will meet for a distanced walk with our masks on. I make sure I keep those things within my schedule, because that helps me.
I'm gonna cut you off just for a second. We're gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, Heather Dugan is going to be back with us, and she's going to get a little bit deeper into connections and relationships and what things are like now since COVID started last March when she joined us. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference.
We were retiring from Tucson, Arizona, and we made a retirement trip out around Ohio, having decided that's where we wanted to be. And we came across this town called Lancaster. And we fell in love with the downtown area, where the fountain is, and the memorials, and the flags, and all the stuff. And we looked around, and I said, there's our bank, right there.
There's something to be said about a community bank in your hometown.
Right. If you live in the community, you should do business in the community as much as possible. So it makes sense to bank with the community bank where you live.
Fairfield Federal is the bank to be at. If you live in this town, any town actually, you want to bank at a local home bank. And the employees are happy here, they're conversant, customer service is through the roof. There's nothing more you could ask for.
Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our 2 locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
like to be part of Green Machine, keep me busy, and it's also important that we do it together as a group, and we plow and plant, and we have lots of produce. We have tomatoes like one here, and gourds, cucumbers, squash, strawberries, beets, microgreens. We also have flower arrangement, and we also sell bags, those tote bags out of animal food bags, and we sell them out in the market, farmers market.
It's a special place that keeps people healthy by eating a couple fruits and vegetables. I always show people, first time they pick raspberries and green beans, I show them how to do it like they do it wrong. Picking raspberries and green beans is simple, it's easy for me. We're entering some things in the field like pumpkins, the gourds were growing, and everyone likes them. Tasty.
The Frame Shop in Lancaster has been family-owned and operated since 1975, offering a lifetime guarantee on materials and workmanship. All framing is done in our workshop with the utmost attention to detail. You'll have a one-of-a-kind product custom-made just for you. We can frame many types of items. We also offer frame and photo restoration and repair along with ready-made frames. The Frame Shop, where your business and loyalty are very important to us.
Hey guys, we're back. We've been talking to Heather Dugan. We've been talking about what it's been like since COVID first started to how it is nowadays and the things that she's learned along the way with staying connected with others and maintaining relationships the best way that you can. And to kind of stem off of that, what are some things that you could share to help people continue on this path of where we are right now?
Yeah. I mentioned that pandemic relief thing that I've been doing. There have been definitely some things that I have tried to hold myself to because I know for the long haul, I have to kind of plant those in my day in order to help myself along this. Some key things are, first of all, would be monitoring the voice in my head. That's in this next project I've been working on. That's when actually in the last book too, The Friendship Upgrade, I talk about that heckler that a lot of us have. And it's super important when you're spending more time by yourself, not to give that voice room, because you need to turn that into your ally. It makes no sense to trash talk yourself, right? Because you're supposed to be encouraging yourself. You need to be your own cheerleader. So I made a decision years ago that I wouldn't say anything to myself that I wouldn't speak to my kids. And that changes what I say, and I hold to it. And you know what? I'm more pleased with myself, and it helps me to do better. It motivates me. It's not even a gift. I think we have to assume that we owe that to ourselves to be an ally. Also, just, I plant little oases within my day. By that, for me, it means, I try to take walks at certain times because for me, being outdoors invigorates. And it doesn't matter how cold it is. It helps me think. So I plant that, and that is something that I know is going to come, no matter how difficult other points might be. And it just, the little things can matter right now. I mean, even I was actually on crutches for a month in October, and I had a big surgery, and through that, I still made my bed. And that's a small thing, but for me, that creates a good space, and that made a difference for me. Other people have different things, but find something that's meaningful to you and make sure that you create it, and to plant perspective for yourself. I think too, sometimes writing down the truths or having a source you can go and look at that will remind you this is temporary. And, you might be making some mistakes that you wouldn't normally make, but you are maxed out in terms of the social changes that we've been going through and the emotional changes through all of this. So giving yourself some grace there. Reaching out to others is always a wonderful thing. And that can be as simple as saying hello to people as you see them, being the initiator. Going first is a very grown-up, good thing to do on anything. Because, and it doesn't, it really, it helps if you understand on the connection part that other people need that as much as you do.
Right.
But, when you detach the idea of an experience being tied to an outcome, then you're able to enjoy all the lessons that come with it. I like to think of absorbing life, which means this is not wasted time.
Right. Right.
I had the difficulty / blessing of perspective to lose my parents quite a long time ago. And what the perspective that it gave me is just, of course, the brevity of life. And that has allowed me, I think, to appreciate and not wait on things. And I think, this is an opportunity to decide, what do I miss right now? What is really important that I want to keep in my life and create in my life? If I've noticed a lack now, how can I make that happen?
Right.
So there's so many things, but that's a few right there.
Well, and just as like you had mentioned before, when you and I had a conversation, was something as simple as you had ran into a person at a local store and they ended up sharing a lot of information with you about being lonely and depressed and kind of not knowing what to do with that. And you were just there to be there and to listen.
Right.
And that's all that person needed.
There've been a lot of those kinds of conversations, actually, just, out on walks or, random. I think that was in a Home Depot, the one that I mentioned to you. But just recognizing and understanding the need in others. It helps. It reminds you that the world's a little bigger than your own little problems right now. We all share in this, and it is hitting all of us in different ways. And on the other side of that, being able to give grace to those that aren't maybe behaving as you would have hoped them to. Maybe they're not reaching out to you and you thought that that they would be the friend to you that they'd always been. Well, they may be dealing with many other things you're not aware of. And people cope with this kind of stress in many different ways. And we have to kind of, we don't know their histories completely. Anybody, we only have the benefit of our perspective. And it's right here, this is what I've experienced so far. These are the tools I picked up, and people don't always take the time to change those out as they learn new things because we're busy. That's another great thing right now to maybe understand, what are some of your reactions that seem to get in the way of relationships? Where do those come from? Because a lot of times they aren't based in the moment. They're tied to something that might've happened 20, 30 years ago, It's
and
crazy,
you're still
but
holding on to it.
Yes, because you hold it as a truth, right?
Right.
So that's a lot of that I've got in my next book because these are big life skills that change everything when you begin to kind of put them into practice on a regular basis.
Right. Well, and mentioning your book, you've got your 2 other books. Could you mention those and where people could go to find more information?
Right. There's Date Like a Grown-Up, Anecdotes, Admissions of Guilt, and Advice Between Friends. It's in some bookstores. It's also available online, certainly. And you can always find my books on my website, heatherdugan.com. Dugan is D-U-G-A-N. I always feel like I have to spell that. And The Friendship Upgrade, Trade Clickable Connections for Friendships That Matter. Been talking a lot about that because everything is clickable right now, isn't it? And how do we add meaning within that? And that, again, available same kinds of places online or at my website. I'm on social media as well. And I always suggest to people, I wrote them in the order that I shared them, but I always say the Friendship Upgrade is really where you should start because we need those foundational relationships in order to, first with ourselves, then with others, then we're really able to bring our true self to a romantic relationship.
Right.
But, and then the next one is probably going to be, I guess that's the prequel to both of them because what I'm working on is focused on your relationship with yourself mainly. And that's, you know, kind of how to be happy while human, you know, and because life happens, we can't change this context.
Right.
You know, a lot of times we change things to make ourselves happier and it's, you know, sometimes that makes sense. It allows us then the space and time to create a different response pattern within ourselves. But when you get to the place where you can manage your emotions in a effective way, and not that emotions are like just something we put in a box, but being able to experience them and live with them and not be taken down with them in this kind of a situation is both a skill and a gift. So that's something I would definitely like to share more, you know, certainly what I've learned, and I hope to always be learning on these things.
Yes.
But, you know, what has helped me, I think can be helpful to anybody.
Absolutely. So. Well, and your books are wonderful, just like you. And I highly recommend you guys check them out because I've read them a long time ago. They're wonderful, quick reads. And Heather, thank you so much for being here again today. Different circumstances, but it's still great talking with you.
Likewise, Darian. I wish you well as we move forward, and we'll be out of this before, well, I won't say too long, but we will be out of this. That's the perspective.
Hopefully
it will
before
end.
Next March.
Life will go forward. Yes. Definitely. Definitely.
All right,
Best
guys.
to you.
That is all that we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon.